Our final presenter is David Townson. David is a designer and design manager with 20 years' experience. His work has involved innovation of such things as returnable transit packaging, knowledge management systems, cat flaps, educational programs, and online courses for aspiring playwrights. David uses design methods to enable clients' business in the private, public, and third sector to develop and grow. He has worked in manufacturing with Orange's corporate innovation team. He is now an independent design and innovation management consultant, where one of his roles is as a design council design associate, working with private and public sector improvement programs. Now, David will be talking today about the Design Council's Design Leadership Program. So please, welcome, David.
Okay, thanks. Don't need to clap, we'll save time. I've got no minutes to get through 147 slides. I'll get going. I'm here representing the Design Council. The Design Council has been going since the Second World War. It was set up to raise awareness of the value design can bring to the things that matter. And then, and I think to a large extent now, a lot of people tended to view design much more in terms of the tangible side of design, you know, the products, the graphics, the interiors that have been designed. But design is increasingly being used to address these challenges, a lot of which have already been discussed today. And I'm going to talk you through a number of areas in one of the projects I was involved in where design is helping engage with change. There's a great guy called Marty Neumeyer, great design author. He talks about design is change. Over the last 10 years particularly, design's moved into, more in the private sector, but more recently the public sector, the world of organisational strategy. And these books are an example of that, where people are starting to recognise that design is not so much the output of the process, the noun, if you like. It's this framework to innovate. It's the process that supports the output as well as the output itself. So it's not just the website or the product or the graphic. It's the whole process and framework for driving those things. And there are many, many models of the design process, hundreds of them. At the Design Council, we use a thing called the double diamond, which is going to magically appear. And this is one half of that. Most people tend to start their design projects at this point. Okay, they've got their problem in mind and off they go, being very creative, divergently thinking about responses to that problem as they develop solutions and then deliver those solutions into the real world. But what we find, and the role that I play as a design associate for the Design Council, is to force people back into this first half of what you can now see as the double diamond, to actually spend time discovering insight into the problem that they've got and reframing that problem before investing time on solutions and starting at the idea phase. Because if you're not careful, starting with ideas and going forward just gets a solution to market faster that doesn't actually work. So it's good to spend a little bit of time up front. Hugh Doubly puts it very succinctly, quite dramatically, but I agree with the sentiment. It's worth spending a little bit of time figuring out what you're actually trying to do before you expend a lot of time, money and effort doing so. And when we work on projects at the Design Council, we use this premise of spending a bit of time with a client on the front half, but all through the process, we're trying to be people-centred, so spending time with people to get rich insight into the problem, being visual, because being visual helps you share ideas, helps people understand the ideas in ways that they might not previously, and collaborating and being iterative, so reducing risk through quick and early and sometimes quite ugly prototypes to get things to be better understood. So I work with Barking and Dagenham. Their key challenge was improving customer engagement and staff collaboration for the people of one ward within the Council of Barking and Dagenham. And so I work with a great lady called Sue Devitt, who's the housing manager down there, and she was keen to get the housing management team working with the environment team. This is kind of innovation, open innovation inside a large organisation. So here we expose them to kind of like micro hack days, I suppose, get them to think about people who they want to engage with better and better understanding what level of knowledge they've got about those users. And then making sure that they don't just stay in the room talking about it. We force people out. We send them off on service safaris to understand how you can gather insight by leaving your desk and leaving your office. So this is Gary and Nikki doing a service safari inside an O2 shop, and sort of, they bring back that. And it's a bit like playing a game on an app, learning the tools before you deploy them for real. This is a group of people from the council sketching out ideas, so in real time coming up with ideas in responses to problems that they've found. So we do a practice day and then we do it for real, if you like. We do it in the O2 shop and then we come back and do it for real on issues in the council. So at the end of this process, they end up with this whole catalogue, a sort of sketchbook of ideas. We get them to think about how would you actually take those ideas and do something real with them. What would you do now? What would you do in the next 30 days, 60 days? What would it cost? Who would you have to involve? And get them to think about prototyping plans. And so at the end of the process, we've got this kind of a whole sort of framework, a portfolio. You know, a bunch of people spending a bunch of time capturing ideas, but boiling them all down into this set of different project opportunities. And we're not going to do them all. We're not going to, I'll show you the slides later. We're not going to do them all, but we've captured it, okay? And they've got great ideas, and a lot of ideas just disappear into the ether. So we picked a couple of these ideas and framed them up as projects that we would actually then go off and do. This is an early description of one of the projects. There was about 3 that we rolled up into a big project. But this was all about engaging with what Barking and Dagenham called the disengaged. So, you know, it's great to hold a meeting in the council and invite everybody and be open, but people don't come, you know, people are busy. So go out, get the council out into the real world, okay? Now, at this point in the Double Diamond, we're sort of framing the problems and thinking about how we're going to go forward. One of the things the Design Council does is try and expose people to new types of designer and different design disciplines, and there's an emerging discipline of design called service design, and there's some smart young design companies out there doing so. So we sent out project briefs to a bunch of different companies, involved the guys at Barking and Dagenham in selecting ones that they wanted to meet with, and then chose to work with a fantastic young London-based outfit called Us Creates, who do a lot of work to enable new behaviours in communities. They do a lot of work in the public sector. You can read about this project on uscreates.com as well. So we work with Us Creates, and one of the reasons we were keen to work with them, apologies for the quality of that slide, was that it was a 3-phase thing where Us Creates were super open about handing over their know-how. The first phase was them leading with Barking and Dagenham sort of in the background. The second phase was encouraging Barking and Dagenham to try out with Us Creates alongside them. And the third phase was Barking and Dagenham on their own, adopting the model with Us Creates on the phone. So Us Creates set off and did a classic piece of design research, going out and about. This is a thing called link tracing, where they've met all these people, plotted them on a map, and plotted where they come from on a map, working visually, saying, look, these are the kinds of people we've met. These are where they're based. Capturing all that stuff in what they called a tour bank. So it's an immediately usable resource for the council staff who couldn't come out on the trips to see what was being found out and hear people talking about their experiences of the council. They then repeated it with the staff and went around doing the same thing, interviewing staff. And so they had this fantastic resource of vox pops of staff and citizens. And then we said, right, you're all going to do it now. And we sent, you know, this big burly guy, Jim, out with a video camera and a set of instructions and with some support just in the background, and got him talking to staff, talking to citizens out on the streets of Abbey Ward in Barking and Dagenham, and capturing that information. And then we brought the 2 strands together and had a sort of co-design session with citizens and staff at the council. We took over an unused room, turned it into a project space so people could see the project evolving, which is another great thing I'd encourage people to do, make the project visible. And I won't try and explain all of this, but basically a whole bunch of stuff from the 2 phases mapped over, whether it was to do with the council, the community, or an area of overlap in the middle, and 3 sort of headline themes to do with waste and cleanliness, council systems, and antisocial behaviour. So again, capturing all this as we go and thinking, right, which one are we going to prioritise on? And then they turned them into specific little projects. So this is some early stuff sort of showing ideas for a thing that was then called community leaders, turned into new housing groups, sort of associations, residents associations. A landlord scheme to help landlords be a key part of advising about how to use waste for people that were new to the area and so on. And there's a great video if you go to Us Creates, and this is Jim on the left and Nikki and the team showing you how they went about this, and actually, you know, clips of them out on the streets of Barking and Dagenham spending time. And the projects like the cleanliness thing and the other stuff, you know, housing associations and so on, They were all kind of ways to tackle and begin to touch on these outcomes of satisfaction, increased engagement and so on. But the key one is at the bottom. It was this thing about a transferable model. The little projects were the Trojan horse for a new way of working. Working across silos, as happens in a lot of councils. I'm going to finish quickly on this. It's from a book that Nesta produced called The Open Book of Social Innovation. I think Barking and Dagenham are kind of here. They're kind of working their way round this spiral. They've adopted the model. It's been deployed into other wards of Barking and Dagenham. The housing managers now have that kind of stuff as part of their training. And I think the last thing to say is that this approach of using some of the methods that I've barely scratched the surface of, but you use it, it's not one massive double diamond, it's loads of little ones all the way around that spiral of innovation to sort of get yourself comfortable about working with others and working in a more collaborative way. That's it from me. If you do want more information, my colleague from the Design Council, Julia, is here. We've got some stuff if you want it at the break or afterwards. And go to the Design Council website or send Pauline an email if you want to find out more. Thanks very much.